This is Saul Luckman. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Conversations on Saul Luckman Uncensored, sponsored by snooze2awaken.com, resources for lucidity. For more information about my work, including a lot of cutting-edge free content, check out crowrising.com. I'm also on Telegram, where I'm sharing daily truth bombs at t.me/Saul Luckman. And I've just created my own Substack at saulluckman.substack.com. If you appreciate what I'm doing here and interviewing some of the greatest minds and hearts in the conscious resistance, please take a second to subscribe to my channel and give this video some love energy exchange. Today, I'm thrilled to get to chat with a major figure in one of the most controversial subjects in the so-called universe. The subject is Flat Earth, and the figure is none other than David Weiss, aka Flat Earth Dave. I don't really care if listeners out there have made up their minds on this topic, or whether they've done any research at all, or what their level of, frankly, knee-jerk judgment about it might be. Because today's interview, folks, is my own selfish indulgence after a period of fairly intense study into all things Tartarian and flat Earth. I have numerous questions for Dave and look forward to his candid responses. Dave is a real character and a truly bright fellow who has been pulling back the hood on the globe psyop for a long time. I encourage you to watch all of his YouTube videos at Flat Earth Dave Interviews, and I'll also put the link in the show notes. I also recommend that you check out his recent interviews with friends of this channel, Allopathic and Rob Edward, and I'll link to those in the show notes as well. Thanks so much for joining me today, Dave. How are you, my friend?
Hey, thanks. Your channel sounds like a great channel. I'll have to check it out more extensively. And your comment about your listeners having a knee-jerk reaction, I don't blame them. I had the same one when I first heard about this. Forget it. It's the dumbest thing ever. And I refused to even watch a short little video. I'm like, there's no need for me to watch your stupid video. The Earth is not flat. You have to be a moron to think that. And that's where I came from. And then somehow I was forced to look, and I went in with a closed mind. Unlike you, who's looking at it with an open mind, I went in with a closed mind, trying to prove the globe, disprove flat Earth. I thought it would be easy. That was 6-7 years ago, and here I am talking to you, doing and I'm known as Flat Earth Dave. Who knew?
I love it. I love it. Well, actually, I wasn't that open. A few years ago, my teenage son approached me with the subject, and I was somewhat dismissive. And then I was in an interview last summer. I just published a novel, and we were talking about Earth things, because the novel is about the goddess and about the Gnostic view of reality. And I was interviewing with Amanda Vollmer, if you're familiar with her, Dr. Amanda Vollmer.
I'm good friends with her.
Okay. So I said something dismissive about flat Earth, or I made a comment that had nothing really to do with it. I just used that as an example, something like, it sounds like a flat earther thing or something. And she really kind of, let me know that she really
was she nice? Was she nice, or did she jump down your throat? Because us flat earthers, we can get very passionate.
Yeah, I mean, I love Amanda. I support her work, etc. And so she was just honest with me, and I thought about it for a while, but I didn't really go down the rabbit hole until sometime in the last several months. I mean, I had entertained this and that, and what happened was I watched your interview with Allopathic, and that's Bear Lando and Mike Winter. I'm sure you know. And they've interviewed me too, and then I watched Rob Edward interview you, and he and I have also interviewed, and you put me on to John Levi's channel.
Yes, my favorite.
So I mean, what an amazing experience that was. And then John put me on to Mind Unveiled, and then Wim Carret's channel, who's doing the plasma moon archontic, crater Earth theory. So it was one thing after another. I have a lot of obviously questions for just to get your perspective, because so much of this information. In fact, I just got off an interview with Mark Atwood, and I said, I'm going to be interviewing you in a little while. And he said, oh man, I love Flat Earth Dave. what are you guys going to talk about? And I said, well, this new stuff that I've been checking out, and to get his take on it. And he said, yeah, the gist of our conversation had been that there were so many different opinions, even among very open-minded people, about what the heck is going on. What is this thing that we're on? What is its shape? This energy field, et cetera, et cetera. So you have flat Earth and crater Earth and all this stuff going on. And I wanted to get to all of that, and I don't even know where to begin because it's such a massive topic.
Let me ask you a question, Sal. Since you've been introduced to flat Earth, I guess your son was the original catalyst. Have you had a moment of boredom?
Oh no, I've been thrilled by the whole experience of thinking about it.
What makes
I binge watched all these videos, and I think I've taken on so much information that I've overdosed.
Yes, that's what happens. But the thing is, people get old and die because they, besides not taking care of themselves, they lose interest. They're bored. Their mind is, when you're bored and in fear, those are the top two ways to control people. You kind of just wither away. We're never bored. Like if you gave me 50 hours in a day and I said I only had to sleep for 2, I still wouldn't have enough time to research all the stuff that I want to research. So, boredom is a word that I could just eliminate from my vocabulary because it'll never happen to me. Ever.
I mean, Roger, that my Substack is something. It's got a funny little. What is it? Let me make sure I don't misquote my Substack. Hold on. Let's see here if I can get to it, because it's funny. It's like that you would actually bring that up. And my Substack, it's saulluckman.substack.com, and it's where the odds are stacked against boredom and complacency.
Nice.
I'm with you, man. I'm totally with you.
Nice.
Maybe we could start out with, flat Earth light and talk a little bit about Tartaria. I'd love to get your thoughts on what the true history of this thing is that we call Earth. What are we looking at civilizationally? How would you walk us through a kind of timeline or a set of concepts to help us understand how we got here?
Wow. Wow.
It's a massive question, but I feel like for some people that's going to be a good entry point, and we could talk a little bit more about some things on the other side of that.
So when you say Tartaria, was Tartaria a worldwide thing? Was it just Russia? Was it, half the world, a quarter of the world? Was it connected to everything else? Was there a mud flood? Yes. When did it happen? Don't know. Why did it happen? Don't know. Was it natural? Was it man-made? Was it, what was it? Those are the questions we're trying to find out. But there's no question things are buried in mud. There's, in every city, everywhere, there's buildings with windows underground and all sorts of stuff. And there's videos and pictures of them excavating, like the Transcontinental Railroad was here. It was dug out of the ground. There's so much going on. And we look at, I'm showing what this is, a star fort. You're aware of star forts? This pattern is everywhere around the world. It's everywhere. And how did they build these things? I don't, it would be difficult to build them today with the top engineering firms, but this is everywhere. So when you say, what was this world? That is an impossible question to answer, because you look at mountains, what are they? There's well, you have the giant tree. I'll say theory, but no, there was giant trees. So some of the giant hills, mountains that we see appear to be what's left of trees.
Like the tower.
The Devil's Tower. That's a tiny tree. I think that's a weed. Okay, compared to some of the other ones. And then you have the Titan theory. Right, but when I first, are you aware of the Titans?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm aware of these theories. Of course.
Yeah. So there's a channel called Stellium 7, and it's linked in the app. When I show you the app, I'll show you where that link is. And I actually met the guy and became friends with him. He's like, "You got to watch my video," and I was like, "Oh man, And I resisted watching it for a long time, and then I watched it, and at the end of it, I'm like, "Nah." It's just not enough. He goes, watch the second video. And he forced me to watch it. And I watched it and I'm like, slightly interested. Then I watched the third one and I'm like, mother effer. And then I watched the fourth one and I'm like, I can't even go outside anymore because the world isn't what I thought it was. And then when you go through all of these things and you realize that everything here was once alive, from the tree stumps to the rocks to the land to the everything was alive. And figuring out what this place is, it might be beyond something that men or me can comprehend. But one thing we know for sure, it's not a spinning rock flying through a space vacuum where lightning struck and then we all came out of mutations. That's something provable. When you say, there's lots of different theories, just going back to the flat earth, a lot of flat earthers are like, hey, this is it. We're here. There's a dome. We're here. There's not a dome. There's the flat dome. There's a curved dome. There's other ponds. There's other rings. There's more lands, right? There's all of these different things. And we're trying to figure it out. That's okay that we're all working on different things. But one thing we know for sure, and is scientifically provable, that we don't live on a spinning ball in a space vacuum like science, the religion of science, scientism tells us.
Yeah, I've come to that pretty firm conclusion. And even when you get into Wim Carrett's stuff, he's looking at the crater Earth theory with a much larger, possibly round situation. But even there's no way of knowing what the context for an object like that would be. And it's certainly not a blue ball spinning through a space vacuum, like you're saying. So, even there with a kind of hybrid theory, we're left with a sense of wonderment and mystery.
Looking at, simple stuff like Angkor Watts or Gobekli Tepe, these are proof, not evidence. These are absolute proof that there was an advanced race. I'm not saying the aliens. I think they were us. I think it was, that there was an advanced race here that didn't just grow out of the jungle and get smarter by accident. There was an advanced civilization here. And I'm personally of the belief. Now, anytime we go beyond the shoreline of Antarctica or above 73 miles, which is as high as we think we can get, it is speculation. But I'm of the theory that there's more land, more worlds of advanced civilizations right beyond Antarctica, other puddles, if you will.
So what do you think about the plasma moon theory, the idea that it's reflecting us back at ourselves or the surface of this thing?
Well, so the map of the Earth on the moon and showing, the current Earth and then the greater Earth, they take a few artistic, if you will, leaps, but there is a correlation there. I'm not going to deny it. It looks there is a correlation, but to say it's a reflection, I think that's a foregone conclusion. What if it's a projection? What if our land is the projection from the moon? Right? Prove me wrong. What?
Right. It's just theories.
Yeah. What if the moon is sending the energy to the Earth to create the land in that projected shape? I don't. To say it's a reflection, a mirror of the Earth, I think that's just, you didn't realize that there's another option, that there's several more options. But is there a correlation? I'll go with yes. The people think that the theory of the moon, that a friggin' planet hit our planet and knocked the chunk out and it turned into a moon and started circling us. That's absolute insanity. But the moon, this is one giant, the entire Earth system, which we could call the universe, the Earth system is a living system. And everything is interwound. Like the moon is tied to reproduction, women's cycles, right? And, but now people are being, separated from all of these cosmic, for lack of a better word, energies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. So I mean, the idea of the living system is very dear to my heart. I experience it that way. I think that's what a lot of Native American and indigenous wisdom is getting at, that we are part of a living system, and this is important to restore this concept, or we're lost.
Yeah.
Truly.
So I'm showing a graphic here, and just for those of you that are new to this and don't understand, I'm pointing out your what I call the heliononsensical system, which is the globe, sun, moon, planets, systems, galaxy. So this little snaky one that's going around, that's the moon. And if you look at it really close, the moon is spinning around itself. It's spinning, and then it's spinning around the Earth. And this bigger one, this is the Earth spinning around the sun. Okay, and so from here to here is a year, and from like this wave to this is a month. So there's a month, a month, a month, a month, right? And this is a year. This from here to here is 4.5 billion miles. Okay, that's a number you can't even comprehend. 4.5 billion miles. So the sun went 4.5 billion miles. We're corkscrewing around, all the way around, and everything just works perfectly. Nothing ever changes. We see the same side of the moon. It's been there forever. The stars never change. We're whipping through space at speeds you cannot even comprehend. But you go out tonight, take a picture of the stars. Next year, same night, same time, same place, take a picture. Exact same stars. None of them have moved a fraction of an inch.
Right. You would expect there to be, because you have the idea of precession and the wobble and all of that, you would expect there to be much more drift in the system.
Right. And then the other thing is they get the heliocentrists, the scientism NASA fanboys, they get caught because they say, you know, we're corkscrewing through space, right? We're corkscrewing through space at inconceivable speed. So this is the, you know, the model of the Earth that we have. We're corkscrewing, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, orbiting at 66,000, chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour, moving sideways at 2.2 million miles per hour, right? And somehow the stars are reset. They go, well, the stars are so far away that there's no parallax. They're so far, far, far away that the 4.5 billion miles is nothing. It's a microspeck of movement in comparison, right? That's a cool story, bro. Okay. And after decades, centuries, all of that distance doesn't matter. North Star is going to stay right where it is, right? You know, the North Star never moves, right?
Right.
So are you familiar with the Georgia Guidestones?
Yep.
So the Georgia Guidestones, are you familiar with the hole in the center of the Guidestone? This hole right here? If you look through it, Polaris is there. It never moves. Time lapse, the stars will circle around. Polaris is there. It's been up for over 4 decades. Polaris hasn't moved. Well, it's so far away. 4 decades times 4.5 billion miles a year. No, it wouldn't move. But they also tell us that the North Star wasn't always our North Star. 4,000 years ago, we had a different one, and 4,000 years from now, we'll have a different one. Well, using their time frame, in that 40 years, we should have moved almost a full degree already. A full degree, that there's no way that star would remain in that hole, even with 1/4 of a degree. Okay? But it's still there. It's still there. It hasn't moved. The Georgia Guidestones absolutely prove that we are on a stationary plane and that the stars are fixed in their motion above us, right? There's also this monument. This is a kind of a cool one. It's a war memorial monument. Not that I'm a fan of all of that, but these holes all line up with the sun on 11/11 at 11:11 a.m. every year. We're corkscrewing through space. And every year.
Where is that?
That's a great question. I thought it was in Maryland, but I don't know. You just look up Solar War Memorial, thing. You can come up. You can find it.
Fascinating.
Yeah, but think about that. How the heck, and then think about this. Everything's held in by gravity, right? We have the sun, this giant ball of gas. Somehow the gas is accumulated. A gas has started collapsing on each other in space, right? That's just absolute insanity, because you can't have gas in space. It would fill the space. It wouldn't collapse upon itself. And it's bigger than the rocky planets, but the gravity from the sun at 93 million miles away is holding on to Venus and Mercury and Earth and Mars and Saturn and Jupiter, holding on to all of these distant rocks. Amazing. And they all go around as the sun is traveling away, as the sun's, the sun is flying away. Everything is following it on a flat plane. Isn't that interesting? They're all on a flat plane chasing the sun in its curving trajectory through the universe, right? That makes absolutely no sense.
I would agree. And when you have so many wonderful disproofs of the heliocentric model, I mean, it's amazing what you've done to be able to bring that forward. And really, kudos to you. Such great work. I wondered if you might share with our audience how you would interpret what stars and planets and the sun and the moon might be, given the fact, the fact, I would say, that they're not what we're being told they are.
Right. Well, when we look up at the stars and we look up, this is Venus. Now, some people say, well, it's out of focus. And some of these it's tough to get them in focus, but every star and every planet, which used to be called a wandering star, has its own unique patterns, right? So this is Venus. I had Mars in here. Oh no, that was on another page. Let me pull up Mars real quick because that's a good one. Here's Mars, and this is what we see. So what are stars? Well, what are planets? They used to be called wandering stars. They're all named after gods. Interesting, right? And they're here within our Earth system. Think about this. If you're on Mars, you're farther from the sun than we are, so the sun would be smaller. If you're on Jupiter, you're even farther. The sun would be getting close to a bright star, okay? But you ever look up and see Mars and Jupiter in the sky? Probably, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you go up, just looking on a night where they're in the sky, and the sky's clear, you can see it. They're brighter than any star. Well, how is that distant sun reflecting off of that dusty, dirty ball or gassy ball, right? Jupiter, gassy, non-reflective ball, and then reflecting back to Earth brighter than any star in the sky? Does that make any sense to you if you use your common sense?
Not really, no. And not if we're looking at physical things.
Right. Well, that's another question. That's another thing. When the globe fanboys are out there, they're like, well, this star is out for this distance. Prove it. How do you know how big or how far something is unless you know how big or how far it is? You can't, I could show you a baseball that's 10 feet wide, but have it at such a distance and lit up. You'd be like, oh, it's a baseball. And you think it's a regular sized baseball, but you don't realize it's a quarter of a mile away. Okay. Because it can make it look like it's close. You've seen all those illusions and stuff where, you assume things are sizes because you're used to them. But actually, I had a great scene that demonstrated that. But so what are they? These are energetic pieces of the Earth system.
So that would include the stars and the sun and the moon in your estimation?
Yeah. So I'll show you. Here's a couple of my favorite stars. This is the star Sirius. Does that look like a burning gas ball trillions of miles away?
Well, after watching all of Wim's content, it looks like the Earth.
It looks like the Earth. I got to watch some of Wim's stuff, I guess. This is
he's basically saying that's the crater, that Sirius is our crater.
Yeah, that's it depends on how you define what a crater is. I'm going to show you a map in a second, which is quite interesting. This is my favorite. You can see this with your naked eye. When this is up, it's amazing. And this is not a burning nuclear furnace, 100 trillion miles away. These distances are ridiculous. Light is like sound. It peters out over distance. It spreads out as it goes. And as it spreads out, it gets inversely more dim. When you double the distance to a light, it's a quarter of the brightness. Double it again, it's a quarter of that. Double it again, it's a quarter of that. soon it's going to get to the point where you can't see it. Okay. So what, you believe. So let's talk. My best example is the closest star is 25 trillion miles away. They say it's 4.5 light years, 25 trillion miles. Okay. 25 trillion miles. Doesn't sound that far, does it? Sal?
Well, I mean, it sounds
It,
really far away. I was
it, it,
having this kind of like brain download where I was realizing, based on what you just said, that a light year could not even really exist because it could not be detected. You couldn't even detect light that's been traveling for a year.
because it blows up. Think of it. I say you got a balloon, and if it's not blown up yet, the rubber's pretty thick. You blow it up to 1 foot wide, it's now thinner. Blow it up to 3 feet wide, it's going to get really thin. Blow it up to 100 miles wide. How much of that rubber can you spread over 100 miles sphere? Okay, it's gone, and that's the same thing that happens to light. So imagine our sun, the size that they tell us. If it was a mile overhead, you looked up, the whole sky would be the sun, right? Right? I'm giving you an example here. So then we move it 93 million miles away, and it's going to get smaller and smaller until it becomes the size of a coin held at arm's length. Right? Look up at the sun, hold a nickel, a quarter up there. That's about the size of the sun. Okay? That's moving it 93 million miles away, which is 8 light minutes. The distance light travels in 8 minutes. That's what they tell. That's what they tell us. You with me? Tell me you're with me.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm with you.
So if we doubled the distance, how much smaller would that get?
Would it be 4 times smaller? I'm trying to think.
So that's interesting. Some people say it would be half the size. Well, it went from the horizon to horizon to that small. How could it only reduce just a little bit more? Okay, let's say, but I think it would be too small to say. Let's make it 24 times farther. It's so small, its angular size is too small for your eye to resolve. Your eye can only see something that's 0.02 degrees in arc width. Anything smaller, you can't see it. Okay? Well, it is magnitudes too small. 24 times 8 light minutes is 3 light hours. So we've just scientifically proven that the angular size of the sun is magnitudes too small to see at 3 light hours away. Okay? You with me?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. So all of these systems would have to be part of our system in one way or another.
Yeah. So just let me get through this point. I'm trying to paint a full picture here. No worries. So at 3 light hours away, it's too small. We're going to ignore the inverse square law of light because it would be way too dim, but I'm going to ignore it because we don't need it. We don't need to complicate it. So they tell us Polaris is 46 to 48 times bigger than our sun. Okay. So what's a comparable distance that Polaris would have to be for us not to be able to see it by magnitudes? Well, 48 times 3 light hours is 6 light days. Let's round up, a light week. At a light week, Polaris, at the size that they tell us it is, would be magnitudes too small to see at a light week. Okay? Mm-hmm. You know how far they tell us Polaris is? 433 light years away.
Right.
Now, this is where people's brains short circuit because we weren't taught to think. We were taught to memorize and regurgitate nonsense. And so once you understand, that's impossible. We couldn't see any of the stars. None of it makes any sense. And when you look, everything we see is right here in the sky. Everything we see is right here in the sky, right here within the Earth system.
Yeah, and the other thing it does, it immediately appeals to this notion that we are in an intelligently designed system. Because once you begin looking at the system and the way the stars just kind of spin in this time clock fashion, and all of that sort of thing, it's just extraordinary to think about the minutely calibrated system we find ourselves in.
Yeah, 100%. And so when people say, well, how come how far is the sun? How big is the sun? I don't know, because I don't believe that the sun that we see and the moon that we see are in a unique position. I believe they're more of a reflection or a projection or just a focus point of energy through a lens, if you will. Maybe the dome is the lens, right? So here's a little experiment I did. I got a sheet hanging up there. I got a flashlight 10 feet on the other side of the wall, and it really looks like a sun there, right? So my girlfriend's to the left. I say, where do you see the sun? And she points her finger. She goes, I see it right there, right? Well, I'm over here. So I go over, this is where she sees it. I'm looking from her point of view, but I'm standing over to the right of her, and I see the sun right there. At the same time, she still sees it over there. Everyone sees the sun and the moon and the other luminaries in a position unique to their own. Okay? So you can't triangulate it. If we tried to triangulate it, we're both going to be looking at a different point in the sky, and you can't triangulate it. The more people you get to triangulate the sun, the worse the calculation gets.
Yeah, and I know I've seen models, with multiple suns, multiple moons. It's so, in some ways it's exhilarating, in other ways it's very confusing. I don't know that we have the full mathematical model for what this system is doing.
Right.
But that's what this is about, partially, right? It's about people putting their minds together, using their higher faculties, their logic, and their genius at times, and figuring out the pieces of this very complex puzzle. I want people to know that this is a complex puzzle, and to think that it's because that's what they've tried to do with the whole flat Earth movement, is make it seem absurd and stupid and kind of like put out by Neanderthals. And that's not what most people who are doing serious research in this field are like at all. They're very intelligent people trying to get answers.
Right. They want you to think that flat earthers think we're a disk in space with round planets. Okay.
Right.
Why are we the only flat disk? We're not a flat disk. This is mixing a false flat earth model with a fake heliocentric model. And those are your two choices. It's like Republican or Democrat. Which one are you going to pick? Both nonsense.
So you have this idea in the community that there's this ice wall. So instead of Antarctica being some little isolated continent at the south of the globe in that model, it is rather a kind of ice wall that encircles our known inhabitable Earth or whatever.
So
I don't even know what to call it.
The way I look at it, they tell us Antarctica is a continent at the bottom of the globe. Here's Antarctica. It's about 10 to 13,000 miles around, and they tell us some truth. It's the highest land on Earth, when in reality, Antarctica is the shoreline around our world pond. Right? Large bodies of water at rest need a container, and they lay flat. Without a container, the water goes away. Don't believe me? Get a container of water and remove the container. Okay. A pond, a lake, the shoreline is higher than the water all the way around. And that's what holds the water in. It needs lateral pressure. Well, our world pond is surrounded by Antarctica. And Antarctica is so high, when you get there, most of it is like a couple 100 feet above your head. That's the ice wall, not the Game of Thrones ice wall. That is the shoreline of the world. So if you look at, Antarctica, this is, people will show me a picture of the ice wall. Go, there's a million pictures of the ice wall. Okay.
Yeah, it's obvious to me. Having digested this material, I can see it very clearly for what it is.
Here's a cool little, this is the TSA at the Dallas airport. Well, they got the flat Earth map here, and the TSA is guarding your entry into the outer lands.
Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about some of the motivations for what they're doing. And I've seen, you were in that wonderful film that I blogged about not too long ago. It was
the Next Level.
Yeah, that was really well done, and I enjoyed that. I loved your scene with the elderly lady in the home. That was very, very touching. I'm sure you've gotten some good feedback on that moment.
Yeah.
So there's several different things here. So I'm also wanting to walk people through a little bit of the concept here. So if if there is an ice wall, and we're talking a water system, there's at least the chance, right, that you go up to the top of the ice wall and more water. There's another ocean, right? Isn't there that at least a possibility that there you would be able to go up the ice wall and maybe over land, maybe back down, but eventually you would encounter water again, possibly.
So the way I describe it is, imagine you're on a big lake in Kansas, and 25 miles around, nice big lake, and you can circle around. You can make a circle around the lake. If the North Pole was at the center of that lake and it's magnetic, your compass will always point towards it. So you want east or west to bring you a equidistant circle around the center point. Get a magnet, get a compass, and try to push it east and west. You'll see that it has a circle. So east and west are circles. It's the same on a globe. It's the same on a flat Earth. But if you went south, which is every direction away from the center, okay? If you went south, which is every direction away from the center, and you're on this lake, what's going to happen? You're going to get to the edge of the lake. You're not going to fall off, right? You're going to fall off the Earth, right? No, you're going to get to the edge. You're going to climb up on the land, and you can start walking. Let's say you walk a mile. Well, now you can't even see the lake anymore. 10 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles, 1,000 miles. Then all of a sudden you come to another lake. What's going on there, right? Well, you get on a boat and you go out in that lake. It's a whole nother world.
Yes. Yes.
So have you seen?
Very...
Good. Sorry. I was going to say,
no, go ahead.
Have you seen this map?
Yeah, I think maybe you showed that in one of the videos I watched. It looks familiar.
Yeah. So this is let me just pull it up on the app for a second. So if you so here's one map that we can look at. So we live here. This is the shoreline. This is Antarctica. Maybe it's 1,000 miles wide. Who knows? Right? And then out here are extra lands, extra territory, extra terra, extra terrestrials. They live here in the outer space across the Earth plane. So what's beyond there? Well, some people think that maybe this is our pond. Whoops. Sorry about that. Maybe our pond is set up. Where is it? Oh, this is oh wow! I got I have a test version of my app here, and it's short circuiting on me. Well, let's go back. Let's go to this guy. All right. So this is the multi ponds. Each one of these is another pond, right?
Yep.
You with me? I got a little issue. Hold on. Maps. There we go. We'll just go with that for now. So we live here. There's more lands that we don't know about within our pond, and then there's other ponds, right? And if you look at all of the stories of like the Lemurians and the Anunnaki, and if you want to believe in all of that, great. It doesn't work in space. It's scientifically impossible. But it does work if they lived in these outer lands right here, right?
Where they were the extraterrestrials. Like
extra terra in the outer space. We're here. There's a book called The Man Who Crossed the Ice Wall, right? And I highly, it's a short book, easy reading, available on Amazon. Let me show it to you. If I go to the book section here of the app,
cool.
This book is mind-blowing, right? The navigator who crossed the ice wall. The navigator who crossed the ice wall. No, it's not about Cook. This is a different one. This is right up there with the Smoky God and with the Iron Republic, which is a story of people finding more land, 100 years ago or more, beyond Antarctica, and there being advanced civilizations out there. If you believe in extraterrestrials, if you believe in the Anunnaki, if you believe in the Lemurians or whatever else, if you believe in any civilization, any type of conflict in space, advanced civilizations, it doesn't work in a helio-nonsensical, impossible, physically impossible system. It works perfectly here on the flat Earth, where you're only traveling thousands of miles instead of trillions of impossible light years, miles and light years and nonsense. You can't be in outer space in a vacuum and navigate anywhere. You can't have a vacuum next to a pressurized world, right? Think about this. Our air pressure needs a container. The pressure in your car tire, it has a container. The tire is the dome, right? And what happens if I stab the top of that tire? The air is going to equalize. It's going to get sucked up into our regular pressure, our atmosphere. You can consider that outer space. And it's going to equalize. Well, the same thing on Earth. It should just shoot up, right? It should just shoot up and fill the empty void. You can't have it both ways.
So space is a kind of pun, right? So they're saying outer space, but they're really talking about the space that's outside of our pond, if you want to use that language, or outside of our crater. Absolutely. All those other ponds out there could be other craters.
100%. This makes more sense. And if you look at the book, The Iron Republic, it's a guy, it was written in 1901. It was published in Florida Magazine. And the adventure happened in the late 1800s. Well, whether the book is real or not, and it rings true to me, they were talking about more lands beyond Antarctica at the beginning of the 1900s. Okay? So this isn't a new concept. This is an old concept that's been hidden from us.
Does this relate to some of the earlier curricula in our school system where they were teaching more of a flat Earth model?
They were teaching that, Ruth said in the 1930s, the 20s, that they were teaching her that. We've met people since then that said in the 1950s and 60s, they were still teaching both as a possibility in public schools here in America and Canada. Okay? So
that is amazing.
Yeah, and that's how fast things can change. They were teaching both, and then the Rockefellers literally changed the textbooks, and it just disappeared. Bam, it's gone, and then everybody forgets. You're like, oh, science is getting better. Universal Pictures was right with the map of the world spinning that they made in 1927. I think it looks just like what NASA photographed. Somehow, Universal Pictures figured it out before NASA. Okay.
As the French would say, quelle coincidence.
Yeah. It's absolute. When you look at the stuff, a lot of times I'm at a loss for words because it's so crazy, the heliocentric system, that once you understand it, the people that hate flat Earth, they don't understand their own model, because if they did, they reject it. Okay. And the idea of what they have for flat Earth is that MIST model, that we're a disk floating in space and whatnot.
Right. It's really interesting. As an aside, you mentioned the Rockefellers, and they were also responsible for changing out all of the older knowledge about healing and natural products and creating an allopathic model based on petroleum products, and changing all of the textbook and kind of shoehorning science and biology into this really narrow window where they come up with these quote unquote viruses as causative agents, and they don't exist either. So to me, that is very compelling information or evidence, perhaps, that we're looking at the same people responsible for both lies.
I believe they was the Fleckner report or something, where they basically checked out all the different schools and shut everything down except allopathic, petroleum-based medicine. Think about this. They're like, oh, this natural herb from the jungle cures this. Okay, let's synthesize it, make it out of petroleum. Oh, it has a million side effects. That's okay. We'll give it to everybody. I mean, that's the world that we live in. I don't want to say too much because I am going to put this on YouTube after you post it. And we know how YouTube feels about the truth.
Yeah, I know that. I wanted to say, and then I wanted to move on and ask a couple of other questions about some other things. I wanted to ask your opinion of the reset concept and some of the things that John Levi has put out about that. But where was I going with that? I had a great question. Oh, I wanted to say, well, so this is fascinating to me. Typically in these models, these flat Earth models that we're seeing the kind of ring, the Antarctic ring around. And so Wim Carret's channel, I'm going to put that in the notes. And it's very interesting. And I'm not saying that he has all the questions, but his model is very interesting. And what he shows, and he's tying this into some bizarre things like Disney's maps and that sort of thing, and showing that this map is kind of recreated all over the earth, all over the world in different ways. And so if our crater on the so-called moon is Sulpicius, has a number after it. That's what he calls it anyway, Sulpicius. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. There's a kind of V down at the bottom of the crater, which would be basically down in Antarctica, and it would form the Pillars of Hercules, which would be the entry point into our crater before Antarctica froze over at some point after, in his model, the Atlanteans came in, perhaps through the gates of the Pillars of Hercules. Another thought would be that right beside us is Sirius B, which is a smaller crater, and they could be sitting over there transmitting a kind of frequency into our world to control us. And that really resonates with my research into archons and that kind of thing.
Going back to that map, going back to that multi-puddled map, the navigator across the ice wall, that's exactly what you're talking about. These other craters, ponds, other worlds right next to us, right?
Yes.
And if you read that book, it is mind-blowing. They talk about, how the pyramid systems of the world was a way that they would do the resets, that the controllers, which they call the custodians, would reset the world before people spiritually grew too much and could challenge their authority. And that appears to be what's going on right now. And they
thus the Great Reset, right?
Yes.
Whether it's real or artificial, I mean, it cannot be coincidence.
Right. And again, this book it kind of blew me away.
I'm going to read it.
Yeah. Here's another thing. This is Atlas, and they tell us he's holding up the Earth, right? But they changed it. Okay. If Atlas was holding up the Earth and we lived in a heliocentric system, it would look something like this. Like, what's he standing on? How is he holding up the Earth? What's he standing on? Unless he wasn't holding up the Earth and he was actually holding up the sky, standing on the flat Earth.
Oh, yeah, I like that. I mean, another interpretation of Atlas is that you have this Atlas up at the top of your spinal column that kind of supports your head. And so in that way, the head is a symbol, the Earth is a symbol of your head or your brain.
Right.
So you have this guy holding up the head.
Right. But they changed it. The original stories of Atlas was he's holding up the firmament. Right. And then the same thing, the Egyptians have, their god holding up the heavens above.
Yeah, I think that was Nut, N-U-T, is that goddess's name?
I think
with
so.
The stars. Yeah, fascinating. So you mentioned the reset, and I wanted people to know kind of what you mean by that. I have an idea of where you probably are coming from with that, but when you say reset, are there different kinds of resets? Has there only been one reset? Do we have multiple resets? Can they be human engineered? Can they be alien engineered?
We're trying to figure it all out, and some reliable sources that we have through many of the podcasts that are out there talk about this being the first reset that they're trying to do early. They're trying to do it before it's time, because people are waking up too much. People are waking up. But if you look, back through history, without saying too much because of YouTube, 1720, they had the plague, 1820, cholera, 1920, Spanish flu, and 2020, we had the boogeyman. Okay. And, back in, everybody got the thing in their arm, and everybody wore the shame muzzles, cutting off their connection to spirit, and everybody didn't make it. Okay. So is it a cyclical thing? Sure appears to be. Okay. So, I don't know what's happening. I have my theories. If you want to learn more about what I think about it, go to stoplookthink.com and hit the, check out the videos on the front page there, or just hit the the CV page.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll put it,
Stoplookthink.com.
I will, I'll put that in the show notes too. So, relative to, okay, putting together the concept of a reset. So one way of looking at the resets that John Levi brought up was in reference to, is it Robert Lapointe's work? Was that the scientist, the inventor who created a machine that you could put like borax and hydrogen together and it would just go and go and go and go and go?
I
So
forget
you have a
that one.
red aspect and a blue aspect to these reset cycles, and that might be related to the red and blue kachinas that the Hopi talk about.
It very well could be.
So we would have been living through a blue reset. I find this interesting because I'm into the transformational potential of all of this too in a positive way. Because according to this model, as I understand it, the blue kachina that we would have been living under, the sky turns blue, and it's a low energy cycle. And we don't have as much telepathic energy or the ability to do things that we might have been able to do in a previous reset and maybe build these huge monuments or who knows what. But the next reset is a red reset if this system is an accurate depiction of the model, meaning we get more energy to do interesting things with in the next reset. Do you ever hear people talking along those lines?
All of that makes perfect sense. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but that makes perfect sense here on a flat plane with everything being local. Um, you know, in the Navigator book, one thing to talk about is that as people grow spiritually, they connect with each other and they become more powerful, and they connect to what they call, quotation marks, the source, and the source gives them great power. So think about what's going on in the world right now. They're dividing and dividing and dividing. They divide us up by countries, which is fake, and by political parties, and by sports teams, and by race, and by gender. And now they're dividing the genders, and then the people that got the V and people that didn't get the V, and they're divide. Put a muzzle over your face. I mean, that's a sign of slavery, and they're keeping us in fear. And they're just watch the news. The news is steering your mind north, east, west, south. News. Fear, false evidence appearing real, and they're literally controlling you through fear. And think about what's going on right now. People are having economic problems. Prices are through the roof. Gas is triple the price. And so on top of that, people are afraid of nuclear war. I don't know if you looked into nukes, but nukes are not even real. Okay, and people are like, what? Nukes aren't real? I'll tell you where to find all that information. And then and here's the thing. Believing is the laziest thing ever, right? You believe lots of things. I believe lots of things. But if you want to know something, it takes time and effort, right? You have to actually think and use your brain and take time, right? Like I usually tell people I live in Connecticut, right? And I'd say to you, it's a bit later in the show, I said, where do I live? You go, Connecticut. Is that a belief or do you know it? And the answer is, well, it's a belief. I told you and you told me and I believed you. I didn't check. Right? To know, you have to go, find me online, find Facebook, find my friends. Like, oh, look, these are all in the same area. There's this high school yearbook. Okay, boom, now you know. But belief is easy. And when a guy in a bow tie who lies tells you, or a teacher tells you, and the book tells you, then you just believe, and there goes your whole world. The heliocentric system is the matrix. It's a prison for your mind. It limits your ability to manifest because you can't think that far. You're trapped in a heliocentric model. And people go, well, the flat earth is the same thing. You're trapped in a dome. I don't believe we're trapped in a dome. If you ask me, my belief, and I don't know because I can't prove it, but I say we should have the ability to go explore the outer lands. But they won't let us. They're guarding those lands, right? The
other thing the heliocentric model does, just to reinforce your point, is that it makes us feel tiny and insignificant, and so we don't believe we have power.
Right. Here, there's 8 military bases all the way around. That if you break 60 degrees south, these ships will come out and get you. You saw it in the next level. The fishermen that tried. Okay. You
Absolutely. That was
cannot get
weird.
to Antarctica. You can't get there and explore. Why not? Why not? They got rid of airships too. I believe that airships used to be worldwide, big ones, Vimanas, whatever you want to say. But they've taken away that technology. They've demonized hydrogen with the Hindenburg, and NASA bought up all the helium companies in the world. So you can't use it. You can't get enough helium to start an airship company, because an airship company, couple solar panels and a fan, you can now go explore great distances. But they don't want that. They don't want that
Well,
because
I would agree.
once you find that there's more beyond there, you are out of control. There's no stopping you. A lot of people theorize that Admiral Byrd didn't die. He went out and didn't come back because there's better lands out there, and he left the tyranny. The Iron Republic talks about the reason that civilization moved out there with an advanced civilization where they had all sorts of technology. This was in late 1800s. He's telling about all this future technology that didn't exist, and it was right about everything. They have flying cars, and they're like, but people say, well, we don't. Well, that's because that technology has been taken from us, right? We should have flying cars, electromagnetic, not anti-gravity cars, but things that can bypass the electrical force of this world. That technology exists. That's what one might call the secret space program, right? So so they're hiding that, because once you see that there's more, there's no stopping you. So that's how they contain us. And now it's out of control, and they're literally trying to cull the population, right? Trying to cull the population. Georgia Guidestones say it in stone, not like it's written in stone. Oh, it is written in stone. Don't let the Earth's population rise over 500 million again. Want to hear the good news on that, though? People say, well, 500 million, that's a 95% reduction in population. I don't believe. Yeah, I don't believe that the population is 8 point whatever billion. I think it's way less than half of that. They're lying to us about the population of the Earth also.
Yeah, there's
only 60-70% of the population needs to die, not 95. Isn't that good news?
Yeah, that's good news. There's a guy named Bitcoin Ben that I followed for a long time and occasionally just tapped into his world, and he has a lot of really compelling information on how the census was used to create the lie of the population and at various points. And I think you're right about that. I think the population is significantly less than we've been told, and that we're being sold a lie about scarcity and that sort of thing to keep us controlled.
And another thing is, they're trying to, you Google flat Earth, you get all garbage. You don't get any real flat Earth videos. You just get the troll videos, propaganda, nonsense. So anybody that hears about flat Earth and tries to Google it, they're not going to find anything, and they're going to give up. Well, why are they hiding it? Right? You can find stuff on Bigfoot, you can find stuff on the Loch Ness monster, aliens, but flat Earth, why are they hiding it? Right? And unfortunately,
they do the same thing with germ theory.
Yeah.
It's like they're the twin towers of the problem here for them that they're trying to bring down.
So when Brian Cox, the lying fake scientist, says that there are no flat earthers, never in history has there been a flat earther. Well, that's untrue. Every culture before NASA was a flat earth based system. This is the flat earth map. These are just the flat earthers near me. Okay. If I click on this is my app, the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. But look, they say flat earth is not a thing. Here is the flat earthers in the USA that have my app, but there's way more that don't have it. Okay. Look at this. It's
amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, would you give people and I can put it in the show notes too, but where can they download your app?
Everything can be found at flatearthdave.com. Flatearthdave.com. The link is there. All my YouTube is there. My interviews channels are there. My DITRH channel, which is Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, all short videos. Nice. All the links are there. I have the crash courses there. Take the crash course. It's a series of videos that if you watch the first 3, you're finished. you're over. You're a flat earther, and if your significant other isn't a flat earther, you have two choices: convert them or leave them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I get you. You know,
Yeah.
this has been a ton of fun. I mean, we could go in so many different directions. I think I would like to just extend an invitation to do this again before too long. How would you feel
We
about
can,
that?
yeah, we can schedule another one. On the app, for those of you that are still on the fence, right? And I probably would have I would probably would have changed the channels already. I wouldn't even be listening right now. But for those of you that hung in there, all right, here's the challenge. Every day there's a new video that shows up right here. You tap the thumbnail, up comes the video. Watch the video every day for 2 weeks. At the end of that 2 weeks, if you think the Earth is a globe, um, send me one proof and you win 3 Bitcoins. But before you do, you have to hit the question mark, and up comes frequently asked questions, right? Hey, what about satellites and GPS? What about ships over the horizon? And if I click ships over the horizon, up comes a list of videos that Google will not let you find. YouTube won't let you find these. They're all like shadow banned, but these will show you why you think ships go over the horizon. And all of the information is all of the questions are there. There's tons of stuff, tons of other resources, awesome TikTok channels. If you have a short attention span, just hit these two buttons right here. Amazing. Here are all my interviews. Your interview will be here at the top of that list. If
Awesome.
you yeah, debunking the debunkers, that's always fun one. This one is flat earth feature movies. Like, turn off Netflix, get rid of Netflix, and watch this with your friends and family. They're amazing movies. The Next Level is in here. I think Next Level's in there.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. That's
Yeah,
beautifully done.
The Next Level. So these videos here, just start going through these videos. These are some of the best videos that have been made over the last few years, and it'll blow you away. All the books, amazing kids books. You got to check out Flat Earth Man's music and his kids books. Amazing. Different products.
It's a hell of an app. It's just it's a really cool app.
And then this is a new homeschool section. We have John Levy stuff here. Crow 777 Radio. Don't send your kid to college. Pull them out of high school. Make them listen to Crow 5 episodes a week, and you'll have a smart, functioning, highly sought after child. Okay.
Yeah, right on. Right on.
Tons of stuff. Different languages. It does everything. It shows you how seasons work. But you can play with the app forever. The app's $3, and you get everything except you can't send messages. You can get messages. Someone's like sends out a message. Like if I go on the friend finder and I say everybody within 50 kilometers, that would be, well, it's loading. Give it a second. There's like 400. There we go. 403 people. I can send out a message. Hey, I'm having a meetup at Joe's Bar and Grill Saturday, 4 p.m. And then everybody shows up. You have new best friends. And people are actually using it as a dating app now because, to be honest, flat earthers only want to go out with other flat earthers. So
what a hoot. That's really funny.
And then it's got the last thing is if you want to access profiles or send messages, you have to subscribe. It's $11 a year. Okay, $11 a year. So if you want to support me, $11 a year, but you're really supporting yourself because you're getting a great app. $11 a year. You bought me a margarita and you didn't tip the bartender.
So that's $14. That's 1 month of Netflix, more or less. I want to ask people, encourage people to support your work by doing just that, by getting the app for starters, and then considering doing your yearly subscription.
Yeah, you don't have to do the yearly subscription, but you're going to want to because you're going to want to meet up with other people. And then there's also, if you're a subscriber, this is silly, but I love it. Everyone, what's the number one app people use? They use the weather. They need to know what to wear in the morning. If you just click here, if you're a subscriber, it brings you to this great dark sky, which gives you detailed weather. You can break out. It has tons of information. I use this. I'm a kite surfer. It tells me when it's going to be windy. Look, it's going to be windy late in the middle of the night tonight. Great. Can't kite surf.
That's great. Well, I live at the beach, so if you're ever down towards St. Augustine, Florida, let me know, and we'll go out surfing. I don't kite surf, but I surf, body
Nice.
surf, and board.
We're having a flat Earth conference in October called Flattoberfest, and you can find it under the shopping cart button. It's in
Where's it going to be?
South Carolina, in Greensville, South Carolina,
Greenville.
Greenville, South Carolina, on October 21st. And
Oh, cool. And that's near Asheville too, if people want to do a double whammy, they can
what's
visit Asheville as well.
Absolutely. And so if you just go to the shopping cart, scroll down to meetups right there, and click that, and it'll take you to the information on Flattoberfest.
Well, you've created quite a little world for yourself there. It's really cool. I'm very impressed by all the work that's gone into this and the thought. You know, it's very streamlined and elegant in a way. So, wow, congratulations.
Thanks so much. And it's a passion. If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
I feel the same way, man. Well, listen, this has been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. I've got a reading list that I'm taking away from this conversation, and I'm going to go read some of this stuff. And so maybe the next time we chat, I'll have more questions for you.
Sweet. Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Take care.
All right. So long. Bye bye.